All right, let's talk about something that's probably a huge part of your morning routine, coffee. We're going to dive into why your daily cup is getting so expensive, the panic that's hitting the market, and a really surprising, maybe even revolutionary future for our favorite drink.
So, if you've been at a cafe or the grocery store lately and felt that sting at the checkout, yeah, you are definitely not imagining things. The cost of coffee has been climbing like crazy, and the reason goes way deeper than just your standard inflation.
I mean, just look at this number. It pretty much sent shockwaves through the entire industry. The futures price for Arabica coffee shot up to a staggering $4.36 a pound. Now, this isn't just a little price bump. It's a massive red flag signaling a really deep crisis in the world's coffee supply.
And it's not just the traders on Wall Street who are freaking out. This anxiety has totally spilled over into the real world. You're seeing social media just flooded with posts from regular coffee lovers all talking about a crop apocalypse. It's created this real sense of urgency, with people even talking about stocking up.
So what in the world is causing all this chaos? Well, to really understand the price in your cup, we've got to go right to the source. Let's unpack the global supply crisis that's brewing as we speak. The absolute heart of the problem is in Brazil. I mean, they're the world's coffee powerhouse. But their main growing regions have been just hammered by a literal perfect storm of brutal frost, then drought, then insane heat waves. And this isn't just one bad season we're talking about. Experts are reporting serious, long-term damage to the coffee trees themselves. That puts future harvests, even as far out as 2026, in real jeopardy.
And to put that damage into perspective, just look at the gap on this chart. Brazil's coffee exports are projected to be down by a whopping 9 million bags this year alone. That just rips a massive hole in the global supply, and the ripple effects on the market are immediate and, well, pretty dramatic.
This right here really captures how serious this is. The global stock-to-use ratio, which is basically how much coffee we have in reserve versus how much we drink, has hit a 50-year low. We've pretty much lost our safety net, which leaves the entire market incredibly fragile and vulnerable to any more shocks.
But here's where the story takes a fascinating turn. As this crisis on the farms gets worse, a totally radical solution is popping up from somewhere completely different: the laboratory. We're about to explore the wild world of coffee made without a single coffee bean. You see, all this chaos in the market has created this powerful incentive to innovate. Startups that are developing beanless and lab-grown coffee aren't just science fiction anymore. They are moving fast to make this a commercial reality. And they're offering a way to maybe, just maybe, disconnect our coffee supply from the chaos of climate change.
Okay, so how does this stuff actually work? It's pretty incredible, really, because there are two totally different paths being taken to create coffee without ever needing a farm.
So you've got two main methods. First up is cell-cultured coffee. Here, scientists take actual cells from a coffee plant and grow them in these big tanks called bioreactors. The result is biologically real coffee, just without the plant. Then there's the second method, beanless coffee. This is more about food science. They use things like date seeds to replicate the molecular profile of coffee, perfectly mimicking the taste and smell.
And if you're thinking this is all some far-off fantasy, think again. The big money is taking this very, very seriously. Barclays, in their Future of Food report, is projecting that this alternative coffee market could grab a pretty significant 5% chunk of the entire industry by 2026. That's right around the corner.
But you know, the technology is only half the story. The rise of lab-grown coffee is forcing us to ask some really important and frankly, really difficult questions about the environment and ethics of it all.
And this table really lays out the core dilemma. On one hand, the environmental benefits are just staggering. We're talking a 99% reduction in water use and a 90% cut in carbon emissions. Plus, it gives you this perfectly transparent supply chain, free from the labor problems that can sometimes plague the industry. But, and this is a huge but, there's a social cost. This technology could threaten the livelihoods of millions of small farmers who depend entirely on coffee to survive. It's a really difficult tightrope to walk.
So the takeaway here is pretty clear. This technology isn't a question of if anymore. It's really about when and how. The forces pushing it into the mainstream are just getting too powerful to ignore.
It's really a convergence of crises pushing this forward. First, climate change is on track to wipe out up to half of all coffee growing land by 2050. Second, the wild price swings we're seeing make a stable, predictable alternative look incredibly attractive. And third, you, the consumers and investors, are demanding more sustainable and ethical products. All those things together are creating the perfect runway for engineered coffee to take off.
Which brings us to the final thought here. The whole debate is moving past the novelty of a Petri dish pour-over. The real question is no longer if these alternatives will show up in the coffee aisle. The question is how we, as coffee drinkers, choose to fit them into one of our most loved daily rituals. What's going to be in your cup tomorrow morning?